I've come to a realization. I've been collecting for 8 years now, and I feel like I've done and seen it all at this point. I even built my dream display, but what has it actually led to for me? Was the journey to the top of the mountain worth it? And what did I actually gain from it? Well, that we need to discuss. But before we get started, make sure to like the video down below, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell, so that way you're notified when content goes live here. Life changes rapidly, so today we need to discuss how collecting priorities and perspective change as we undergo change ourselves. This video might just change your life, so let's get into it. Thank you so much for joining me for another video today. I'm not sure if this will be my most popular video or my least popular video, but I do think it's time that we discuss how collecting fits within the existing framework of our ever-changing lives. I tend to be more introspective when I'm in challenging times in my life because that's where the most growth occurs on a personal level. And that's where I'm at right now, it just so happens. So I think this has led me to an evaluation of where I'm at in my life and what I'm choosing to invest my time and money in and how I'm doing it. I think a little bit of context is appropriate. So hear me out. This story is going to lead to an important point. I started collecting in 2017, 2018. If you've been following my channel for a while, you may remember how my collection used to look. I had large wooden display cabinets that my dad purchased from an antique store. Eventually, I met a girl, moved to another state with her, and moved my massive collection and massive display cases over there with her. Then when things didn't work out, I had to move it all back home, and we actually had to destroy the wooden display cases because they were too heavy and actually sagging our floors, which led me to eventually upgrading to module space display cases, which you see behind me now. All that to say, this experience shifted my perspective on collecting. I was forced to, in about a week's time, move about 75 figures, 10 statues, and 3 giant massive wooden display cases with glass doors across state lines, among all of my other items. So yeah, it cost me a lot of time and money and energy. The moral of this story is that at that time, for me, collecting transformed from a joy or a passion into a burden. And when that happens to you, it does make you reevaluate your decisions and your investment in such a hobby. For me, I decided that it didn't make sense to have 75 figures and 10 statues in my collection, so I got home and immediately probably sold about a third of my collection. It just didn't make sense after going through that experience. This leads me into my first point. Collecting is amazing, but like anything good, it needs to have limits. There are 80 to 100 hot toys being announced for pre-order every year. It's impossible to own all of them, and the moment we as collectors start experiencing stress about which version to buy and how we're going to afford it all, it's time for us to take a step back and recognize what this hobby is supposed to be about. I think escapism is a big part of it. The real world is a very difficult place. It doesn't mean that we should hide from it, but it does mean that every once in a while, it's nice to escape to another world, aka your collection room. You can look at your display and bring you back to all these positive memories when you're surrounded in the real world by a sea of difficult times. So when you're in your world, it just makes things a little bit more digestible and fun. Collecting is also great because it allows you to build something bigger than yourself. There is no possible way that you could build a quality collection without years of time and commitment and energy and investment, curation, all of it. It takes quite a bit of you poured into this display to make it quality and representative of you. It's a lot more difficult than people realize. Over time, it's a very fulfilling process because it's like anything. The delayed gratification of eventually building your dream display after pouring a lot of effort into it for years, it's very fulfilling, it's very rewarding. Collecting is also about that dopamine hit, that dopamine rush that you get when you unbox the figure you've waited years for and you set it up in your display and organize it in a way that feels really rewarding once again. I think adults too easily abandon their childhood sense of wonder and imagination. I'm not saying you should act like a child, but I do think it's important to hold on to that feeling of joy that you get, because when you abandon that, what do you have left? And collecting is really no different. It's a very similar experience. I think one of the more underrated aspects of any hobby is the socialization element. In most cases, people crave socialization. They crave belonging. They crave interaction and engagement. And collecting certainly offers that in abundance. I don't think it can replace actual real-world socialization if you're only doing it online, but I do think it's a step in the right direction. For me personally, collecting has enriched my life socially tremendously. I've met some of my very best friends, basically family members at this point, through the hobby of collecting. I never would have met these amazing people without putting myself yourself out there, and I think this can be a reality for any collector so long as they put themselves out there. Socialization is a really important part of living for most people, and I think at the end of the day, collecting can't replace that. It can only enhance it, it can augment it, it can encourage it, and I think you should lean into that. So while escapism is great, you can only escape to your collection room for so long. Eventually, that escapism needs to push you in the direction of others. My second point is an important one. I don't know if it's going to be the most popular point on this list, but I do think it's important to communicate. Collecting is your interest, but it's not everyone else's. As you may have guessed, I've been going through a difficult time recently due to another difficult breakup. And due to that, it's caused me to reflect quite a bit. And in that reflection, I've found that I've made collecting too big a part of who I am and how I communicate with other people. My ex-partner was generally very supportive and committed to talking about collecting and my channel with me, but I think there's a lot of people who just want to talk about common interests or things that they're interested in, and sometimes I felt like maybe I wouldn't listen as well as I could because I was more obsessed and focused on my own pursuits, aka collecting and my YouTube channel. And this is where I want to make my point here. Collecting is a great part of our lives, a great hobby, but not everyone loves it as much as we do. Not everyone wants to talk about it as much as we do. And sometimes we get fixated on things that we're so obsessed and focused on, and other people just tune us out because of it, and it can become problematic for socialization. I had a friend recently who I trust tell me on the phone that they've noticed that I tune out or don't pay attention when it's a subject matter I'm not as interested in, and I'll gently try to ease the conversation towards something like collecting, which I'm a little bit more passionate about. This makes people feel very unheard and unvalued in a conversation, and it can have long-term negative consequences. So for me, that's what I wanted to communicate in this video. The fact that we love collecting so much shouldn't overtake other aspects of our life that are equally as important, if not more so, and our passion shouldn't be a deterrent to quality conversation where we come across as more selfish communicators because we only want to talk about what we want to talk about because we love this thing so much. I bring this up because I found myself doing this quite often, and it can make you somewhat one note in conversations because you end up communicating about collecting most of the time, and people just tend to know you as that one thing instead of the diverse, dynamic person that you are. My third point is that collecting is for fun and growth, but so are other things. I have always been a proponent of maintaining a well-rounded lifestyle because I just feel like it enriches you as a person. It makes you more valuable in any social setting. Me, for example, I actually started working out a couple years ago after the breakup I mentioned, and I feel like I've made a lot of progress in the last couple years. I relied on family and friends and anyone who had any sort of valuable insight that could help me on my journey, and I do feel like the progress speaks for itself. Those are the type of things that I really want to encourage people to do because there are so many great things outside of collecting that can enrich your life, but you might not be exploring them because you're so happy and content with the comfortability that collecting is offering you. The comfort of that escapism in that collection room, it's a safe haven, it's valuable, but it's not everything. That's just one example of the type of personal upgrades that you can make to your video game character, you, by just putting your effort and attention to something else every once in a while. I also love piano, I love photography, and those are sides of myself that I have neglected in favor of an outright pursuit and love for collecting. I don't want us to lose focus and sight of everything else in our life just because we love this one thing so much. It's great, but there are limits. And that leads me perfectly into our fourth point. Collecting is comforting, but comfort isn't everything. What I mean by this is that in most cases, maybe all cases, feeling uncomfortable is a prerequisite to growth. You cannot have one without the other. It's no different than traumatizing the muscle when you're working out. You have to actually grow the muscle. In order to do that, you have to tear it down and rebuild it stronger. Personal growth is truly no different. And comfort is particularly attractive because it is in fact comfortable, it's easy, it's safe, it's reliable. Comfort is attractive to all of us, particularly me, and it's been something that I've had to grapple with for many years now. But I find that when I reflect back on all the changes in my life and how I've grown to the person I want to be and the positive developments that I've made, I reflect and I say, those were times where I was uncomfortable and I had to humble myself, not being good at something in order to learn how to change for the better. All those times when I was forced or thrust into an uncomfortable situation, and as I mentioned, I had to humble myself, I always reflect back on that and say, wow, that was actually a pretty good thing. That was a new experience that helped me grow in some way. I just really resisted it at the time. We will fight tooth and nail to not experience discomfort, but more often than not, discomfort is the best catalyst for growth. And collecting can certainly tie into this. Taking a risk in life is very difficult. It can be challenging, it can be taxing, but more often than not, that risk risk pays dividends. It results in something positive and beneficial long term. For example, when I actually had to decide which display cases I was going to use in here, I was kind of reluctant to purchase ModuSpace display cases because I'm not the most handy guy in the world. I feel like I've gotten a little bit better with it over time, but I was pretty concerned about not being able to build these display cases because of the community feedback I've heard about how difficult the assembly process is due to the lack of detail in the instructions. Thankfully, the instructions have improved since then. Thank you, ModuSpace, even though my cases have been built for years now. But that process taught me a lot about perseverance. I built my dream display just by putting myself in a difficult situation that I was so worried about because I didn't want the discomfort, and that discomfort led me to something really great and special that's probably for a lifetime. Sometimes taking a risk in collecting or in life works out, sometimes it doesn't, but that's the nature of things. And if you never take a risk, you're never going to find out what could be, and that's a shame. And my fifth and final point is that change will occur as your priorities do. As you grow older, it is absolutely inevitable that your responsibilities and therefore your priorities are going to change. Maybe you become a homeowner and you have home repairs to deal with, or maybe you have a child, you're a parent, and you have innumerable expenses, particularly when it comes to their college as they get around age 18, or maybe you have a pet that decides to jump off the counter and breaks its leg. You're gonna have any number of expenses come up as your responsibility and priorities change, and you just gotta find a space for collecting in there somewhere. But collecting can't always be the top priority. It just can't. So the point I'm getting at here is that sometimes you have to be willing to let some figures go, or maybe every once in a while you pass on a figure that's up for pre-order where in other years you might have bought that figure and brought it home. As things change in your life, you're gonna have to make sacrifices, and that's just part of it. But overall, I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that my stories and my messaging resonated with you in some way, and I hope that I was able to communicate some valuable insights in terms of collecting philosophy and overall lifestyle choices. Guys, if you have any thoughts, make sure to drop them in the comments section below. I'm keen to hear whether you agree or disagree with my principles here, and let me know how your collecting journey has gone and how your collecting processes have evolved over time. I'm keen to hear that in the comment section below, so let me know your thoughts. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so that way you're notified when content goes live here. I just wanted to say that I appreciate you guys for being here, for enriching my life, for making it all the better, for engaging with this wonderful community, and just, creating a great experience for all of us here. And that's really the goal, to create videos and content and a community that really fosters a great time and escapism and fun, but also learning and education and just a really quality environment that's going to make us better collectors and better people. And that's the goal that I'm trying to shoot for here. So thank you so much for joining me on that journey, and of course supporting me through difficult times, through great times. You guys are always consistent and reliable in there, and I do not take that for granted. I greatly appreciate your presence, and it's really helped me tremendously in my life. So thank you so much. It means more than you know, seriously. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I will catch you in the next one, and there'll be lots of great stuff coming on this channel and other great experiences in my life on the horizon that I'm very much looking forward to. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out. See you later. Bye.